I'll talk to people who maybe they own a small portfolio or even a mid-sized portfolio of short-term rentals, and they think that buying a hotel is like this big thing. They're like, oh, whoa, I'd love to do that one day. And I always ask, what's stopping you? And I've discovered that 99% of the time, what's stopping people is actually just this mental block that hotels are bigger than what they can handle. And I'm like, what you are doing now is harder than buying a hotel. Like you've already put more work in than it would take to buy a hotel, and you already know enough to buy a hotel. Literally, the only thing that you're missing is a mentor who's done it before. Nobody's born incredible. People who do incredible things simply took the right steps. This is our journey. This is the hunt for incredible. All right, on today's episode, we've got my man Kassidy Warren. Kassidy is a former corporate ladder climbing junkie. He's acquired $12 million worth of real estate within the last 5 years, which is insane. Started off buying properties self-funded and then realized that it's best to, rather than investing your time, energy, and money into a deal, that it's better to do one to two of those three. So I'm very excited to dive into this. This is going to be a super good show. Kassidy, thanks for being on.
Gideon, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's kick things off with where you started. You mentioned the corporate ladder climbing junkie into where you are today. What that journey look like?
So I grew up middle class and I was always taught have a job, like go to school, work hard, right? That was so instilled within me. And so that's really what I did and got my engineering degree, worked corporate for about 10 to almost 15 years. And every 1 to 2 years would get promotions, climb up, like try to get raises, try to get bonuses, and pretty much dedicated every minute of my life at that point to working hard and getting bigger projects, getting bigger roles. And at at some point, I looked at all the people above me that were doing the same thing or had done the same thing, and they didn't really look happier. They didn't really look more fulfilled. They looked more stressed. And I started searching for something else. And, we live in a decent neighborhood and there's lots of nice houses around. And so my wife and I were walking around thinking about this and we were wondering sort of how do all these people do it? Right? How do all these people have this money? How do they afford these homes? How are they only there half the time? And, really realizing that real estate was the way to do that in some form or fashion. And so we had known that we wanted to go into real estate, but we were so burned out. I was so tired and exhausted from all the work. I was an engineer. Um, I loved creating things. And then I went into sort of IT management where everything was sort of a conflict conversation, right? We were delivering projects, but it was at the point where it was just a lot of negative energy and negative conversations around me. And so I was so burned out that we actually decided to quit our jobs and go live in our van for a year. That was the plan, and the intention of that was to find out what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives and give the space to ourselves to be able to do that. And so on that trip, and I can talk more about it, but on that trip, within the second day, we both said Airbnb, real estate. We want to create core memories. We want to create experiences. We want this to be our thing, right? And so that was sort of the path or the genesis of us then going off and buying. I think we bought like 9 properties within 5 years. All of them Airbnbs. We design, furnish, renovate everything, and then that's up until recently the transition into hotels, boutique hotels, and partnering on that deal to be able to scale. So lots to talk about around that, but that's sort of the genesis of everything.
And didn't you like you landed in Tucson from your car breaking down?
Yeah.
And you were
So
like,
yeah, so we have 5 properties in Tucson, and a lot of people ask why Tucson. And if you're from Tucson, you might disagree or you might have different opinions, but we love it. We say it's a mountain town without them even knowing it because it's surrounded by mountains. But yeah, we were in our van. We had come down from Montana. We were going through Texas. We were trying to head over to Palm Springs in the van. That was our sort of our destination. And the van broke down. It was like the 10th time it broke down. And we were in Tucson. We had no intention, but we broke down to Tucson. We were waiting like 2 weeks on parts. And so in that 2 weeks, we spent all of it exploring the city, exploring the mountains. This was in November, and November in Arizona is incredible. And we're from Seattle. So we did a hike out there that there was waterfalls. We were in the water, sunning on a rock in November, and it felt amazing. We couldn't believe that that even existed, even though people have been going down to Arizona forever, but it was new to us. And so we fell in love with the town, and we decided to start investing in Tucson and a few other places. But it was all because we broke down in the van and decided to go explore.
How freaking crazy is that? Like,
Yeah,
it's such a butterfly effect of like when that gasket or whatever it was that was produced, with its one little flaw that boom, now you're a real estate investor in Tucson with 5 properties.
I think about that a lot. My family reminds me about that a lot too, in a really positive way, because we decided to leave in the van. We quit our jobs. We break down in Tucson, not knowing that that was going to be sort of everything that came out of it. And on top of that, the van kept breaking down. So if if you know anything about these old vans, like of course it broke down, but we had to replace the motor twice on the trip. That wasn't one of them. It was later. Yeah, but discovering Tucson and then growing our Airbnb business through that and learning everything about it, finding the city itself and falling in love with it. My mom bought a house down there now, and that would have never happened. My wife's family, they don't travel much. They've been down to Tucson so much. Like they absolutely
Wow.
love it. Yeah, so it created this new world for us, and it was all around the van and actually the van breaking down. Like it was the failure of that trip, and I don't see it as a failure now, but in the moment it really felt like a failure because we were supposed to be on the trip in the van for a year, and we lasted 6 months because of how much mechanical. It was like the universe was like screaming at us, like, you're not supposed to be doing this right now. Like you're supposed to be going and buying these properties and building these houses and creating core memories for people, right? You will get to your extended trip, but you need to go create things for people. And it needs to be in Tucson. It needs to be in the places that you love and bringing this to people. So
Dude, that reminds me of one of my favorite parables about there was a farmer and his son, and one day their horse escaped. And the farmer's neighbor said, "Oh, that's terrible." And he said, "Yeah, maybe." And then the horse came back with a bunch of other horses, and his friend said, "Oh, wow, this is amazing." And he said, "Yeah, maybe." And then one day his son was breaking in one of the wild mustangs that had come back, and the mustang kicked his son off and he broke his leg. And his neighbors said, "Oh, that's terrible." And he said, "Yeah, maybe." And then there was a war, and the war called in a draft, and his son was spared because he had a broken leg. And his neighbor said, "Oh, that's amazing." He said, "Yeah, maybe." And the whole point of the story is that the good things and the bad things are so tightly woven together, and there's this flow of life where the good leads into the bad, leads into the good, leads into the bad, that you just really have to find this balance of equanimity throughout it, where you're appreciative for both things and mindful that the things could shift because that is the ebb and flow of life.
I totally agree. And a lot of it has to do with how you choose to respond in those situations and what you believe to be true about yourself and like where you're headed, right? And if you choose to respond in a way that says, I accept, I understand, and I'm going to recognize and I'm going to keep moving forward, that's a lot different than trying to fight against what is happening, right? And so the interesting thing is a lot of people ask us about how we handled living together in the van. And there's something about my wife and I that when the times are tough, we're together. Like
Mm.
we're in it. We know that we need to get through it. We know that like we got to stick together and make sure that it all works out. So like when the motor needed to be replaced and the hundred other things, like rock solid. And then there were moments where you get back to the Walmart parking lot and like some little minor thing and it's like, the world is ending. It's like we're so in it together, like in the moments where we really, really need to be. And then, there were these other moments of like not being able to handle stress or other situations. So we ended up selling the van after 6 months, and like with like almost the day that we got rid of it, I got a call from my old employer. They knew I was back in town and they needed some help on a project. And so that was the genesis of me starting my consulting company, and starting to do consulting, which helped fund all of the real estate. And so the reason that I was able to do that, like if you're a normal person and you're like, oh, my job's not going to call me and ask me to come back. But I had created a lot of really great relationships and focused on adding value to everything that I did at the company, and was able to like create a reputation for myself that I can get anything done. I'm easy to work with. They can trust me, right? And sort of created a little bit of a niche for myself, right? And so, me being me and just wanting to add value and be a good person and get work done led to sort of the universe saying, here, take this and go use it. Like, we're going to reward you and then go use it to, build your dreams, right? And so, took every advantage of that I could. And so the lesson there is for people is get a skill, high income skill or any other skill that like you love or you're good at or you need to learn, right? So whether it's at your job or you're like looking to find a job or whatever it might be, like become so good at something that you're indispensable, right? And then you can leverage that whether you're working a W-2 or a 9 to 5 job, or you're an independent or you're a consultant or whatever it might be, but get so good and so valuable that they want to bring you back or they want to hire you for that skill.
So what did you do to actually acquire your first property, then leveraging that and then built up your portfolio? Did you take the cash flow from the first property and leverage that to save up for the next one? Did you refi, HELOC? What did that look like?
Yeah, good question. So we had already bought our house. It's a condo in Kirkland, Washington, and before we left on the van trip, my gut told me get a HELOC because you're not going to be able to get one if you don't have a job, right? And so I got a HELOC, and that ended up being the down payment on 3 houses.
Nice.
Yes, and we funded the renovations and furnishings ourselves. And so the sequence was went back to work as a consultant, had the HELOC, and did a bunch of research. Knew that we wanted to do Airbnb because we had been doing it in our spare bedroom. Found a house in Cleveland, Ohio. There wasn't a lot of data out there, but we did a bunch of market research, and we only had the budget that we had, right? And I didn't know anything about raising money. I didn't know anything about going and getting capital. I didn't know anything about different type of lending options, DSCR or funding 100% of a project. I just knew I know I can go get a regular conventional loan. I've got a job. Like they're going to give me the money to go buy this asset. And then I've got enough to do all the renovations that we want to do. So bought Cleveland, only took 3 weeks to turn it around and go live.
Whoa.
It was chaos. It was, it was like, I can't believe we did it in that short amount of time.
How much work was needed on it?
We limited the amount of total work, but we did the downstairs bathroom got refreshed, so new vanity, wallpaper, lighting. The kitchen, we took down the uppers. That's kind of one of our signature moves is taking down the upper kitchen cabinets because it really lightens and opens up
Mm,
the space. And then at an Airbnb, you don't need all the cabinet space. And actually, it creates a cleanliness issue with the upper cabinets. If your housekeepers aren't going in there and
mm.
wiping them out, like it can be a real issue. And so we added floating shelves, right? This is around the time that they all started becoming popular. So we did that, the uppers, the light bathroom refresh. We added like a mural wall in the primary bedroom, and then we did overhead lighting because the house was so dark that added a bunch of different overhead lighting to be able to lighten it up. And then obviously the all the couches and beds and all that stuff. But my wife had like 4 contractors on site the day that we closed because she was already doing all the work to go call everybody around town, like have people there. It was literally like she got handed the keys and then turned around and let everybody in to go like to go get busy and get started. And then yeah, we spent 3 weeks just like chaos, just running around, furnishing it, getting the listing live. And yeah, that one's been great. Cleveland's been people always ask why Cleveland too. And that one cash flows like crazy. And it's appreciated a ton. It's in a great neighborhood. And then after that, my wife was really like, we got to go back to Tucson, or we got to buy in Tucson. And so that was the next one. It's up in the foothills. It's an amazing location, incredible, one of the best in Tucson, right at the base of the mountains, Mount Lemmon. It's 10,000 feet in elevation. And that one too, we tried to do it 3 weeks, but I think it was more like 5 this time.
Mm. That
Uh,
feels super fast, dude.
yeah, and again, but we were doing everything ourselves, and we were so passionate, and we were so hungry. Like, all we wanted was to do this. There was such a fire in our belly that, like, this is all we wanted. This is the way out. This is our future. This is what we're doing, and there's no other question about it. There was so much motivation behind doing it and, like, getting everything done that we needed to get done. And we were doing it on a budget, so we only had so much time anyways. So that was the other thing is, and a lot of people out there that do Airbnb know this, the sooner that you can turn it around and get it live, the sooner that you can start making money, right? And this is true of any real estate, but the sooner that you can get it live, if you can get it live before you got to pay that second or third mortgage, especially if you're just starting out, you're looking at that mortgage that needs to be paid in a month or 2 months. You're like, I got to get money coming in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that's where we were at, was like, let's try to get it live before we have to pay the first mortgage, right? And a lot of times, depending on when you close, that could be like 45 or even, 50, 60 days out. So that was really the goal. This one had a pool. We were newbies to Arizona, and so it was a fiberglass pool, and we knew that we had to recoat it, and we got taken by this guy who just painted it. So we drained,
Oh no.
yeah, yeah, we drained it. He painted it, and he like demanded payment before he finished everything. I think there was drugs involved. So we learned a lot on that one. That one is one of our favorites, though. Just being up in the foothills, and it's just a brick rambler kind of thing, but it's on a decent sized piece of land in an amazing neighborhood. There's like amazing desert vegetation everywhere, so love that one.
Awesome. So you mentioned that the HELOC subsidized the first three deals.
Yeah.
How did you continue to purchase?
Yeah, good question. So we haven't really taken any money out of the business at all. So the machine has just been feeding the machine, right? We've never lost money. We've never been underwater. Like, we've never had to fund any of the mortgages or anything other than when we're buying a new property and getting it set up. But all of the cash flow has gone to buy another and build another. So the HELOC was the first three, and then the other properties were, well, we've done our own cash, but we cashed out our 401k. And I know a lot of people are sort of adverse to doing that. And we did it strategically when we needed to, like once or twice a year, depending on how much we needed or felt like we needed, cash some of it out, pay the 10% penalty when taxes come around. But it's all been worth it. I mean, the cash flow, the principal pay down, the appreciation, the depreciation on taxes has been incredible. So, yeah, but we haven't taken any money out of the business to pay ourselves or anything. It's just been feeding the machine and scaling and growing for the past 5 years.
Yeah, 401ks are trash. 401ks are trash. I mean, they're good to the extent that oftentimes the employer will match, right? So 100% max out that match. But in terms of the actual appreciation of the capital that's invested in mutual funds, whatever else it is, you can get significantly better returns with things that you can control, like adding value to real estate that you don't get with 401ks. And I'm always preaching, I'm talking to you out there. I'm always preaching about how like 401ks just don't make a lot of sense from an appreciation standpoint. I think Americans that are reliant on that for retirement need to be really mindful and cautious about how much they actually need to work to put into that, because you're trading time for money to put that money into that 401k, and actually putting that 401k into something that you can add value to and accelerate that appreciation is going to give you a significantly better return over time with something that you can control.
401ks are a product for Wall Street. They're not a product for everyday Americans, right? It was created to create consistent money coming into Wall Street and protect it by not allowing us to withdraw it until we're 65 or whatever the age is. And then you get taxed on it when you take it out. So people think, oh, I'm deferring my taxes. I'm saving on my taxes now because I'm putting it in, but you get taxed when it comes out. and likely taxes will be higher. Now, you might be in a lower income tax bracket because you're taking less out, but that's like a scarcity mindset thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to have to only take out 30K a year so that I don't pay too much in taxes and live on 30K a year. That's not the life that I'm trying to live, right? And there's that old saying of like, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. For me, that's not pinch every penny. That's not like save every dollar and be frugal and be scarce. For me, that's go make as much money as you possibly can, right? Within your own abilities and your own ability to go do that by growing and creating value in the world, and then buy real estate and take the depreciation and save on taxes. And I know that's sort of a like tactical response on that, but it's true. Like, go create as much value in the world as you can, and then keep as much money as you can through continually reinvesting it into yourself, into assets that pay you money and that you save taxes on, right? So if you looked at the numbers, I don't even know what the numbers are, but like owning real estate has to beat 401k by 100x, right?
Oh, significant. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the concept of the infinite return on these properties, right? So I used a HELOC. So technically I didn't even use cash to pay for the property. So already it's technically an infinite return. But let's say you use cash to buy the property and then you renovate it, which is what we do. Every single property that we have is a value add property, right? That's our model, is there needs to be some sort of value add to the property to be able to have it be sort of a justifiable project for us, because we want to almost guarantee that we're going to get something out of it and not just rely on the cash flow. So you put your down payment down, you do your renovations, and so yeah, you're putting money in up front, but then you pull your equity out, and not all of it, right? You need to save some and you need some cash flow, but let's say you pull everything that you put in out after the project's done. You literally now have $0 into the project and you're making money every single month, and the principal pay down and the depreciation, right? And so you have $0 into this and you're making money on it every single month, every single year. That's an infinite return on your investment. Now, you put time into it, you put energy into it. And so you got to be, cognizant of like where you put your time and energy. But you're not doing that with a 401k. You're not doing that with traditional investments. It just doesn't exist. But it's more work and you have to go do it. Like, you have to take action to go do it. And you have to be around people that know what they're doing, or at least are willing to help you, or you got to be willing to earn the bruises and all these lessons.
Yeah. It is more work, but it's also a lot of work working till you're 65 waiting to get this money that's going to be taxed probably at a higher rate anyway because taxes just keep going up. Yeah, I don't think it makes I'm with you. I don't think it makes any sense outside of the matching. Not only that, when you think about the 15% appreciation or 15% annualized return that you can get out of real estate versus the 9-10% maybe that you can get in the market with your 401k, like that cost to pull your capital out is significantly cheaper than the compounding returns that you can get from real estate.
100%.
And it's just like you're gonna have to work anyway.
Yeah.
Why not focus your work on real estate rather than focus on whatever else you were gonna be doing anyway?
Yeah. I mean, it's society and the rules that have been kind of put out there for so long. And I think what happens, honestly, is we get comfortable. We graduate college, we have kids, like, we got our job, we got our car, living the American dream. And for the average person who's living in suburbia, maybe doesn't have any mentors in their life, maybe doesn't even have any idea that real estate is a thing that they could do, or owning a business is a thing that they can do. They don't have anyone around them helping them figure that out, or even having it as an idea. You live in a community that is focused on other things, or it's not a good area. There's no opportunities for growth. Some people just never even know that they might even have the opportunity to do that. And then others, it's just too hard, or too hard of an idea to think about taking those steps to go improve yourself and improve your situation in that way, and go try something else, right? And I get it. Like, people have families, people have kids, people like have different reasons for doing things. And if they're okay at where they're at, then that's their choice. But there are so many different paths out there. I really do want for people to at least be exposed to these ideas and understand that there's different ways of doing things out there.
Yeah, 100%. So bringing it back to your property, so you acquired 5 properties and you manage all of those yourselves?
So we have 9 now.
Okay.
Yeah. We started out by managing them ourselves. My wife would handle the guest communications. I did it for a little bit. Early on, I was getting technology involved, so there was like all the stuff that's available today wasn't really there back when we were starting, and so it was like slowly building. And so we were able to automate the messages, and then the door code automation and the calendar syncing, like all that stuff started coming around. But then I think it was like the third or fourth property, like the guest communications, even just the questions that were coming in were just way too much. And it was just so bothersome, especially while we were still working our regular jobs. So I ended up hiring a couple folks internally. We have someone that's been with us for like basically since the beginning. Her name's Jen. She's amazing. She handles all of our housekeeper coordination and maintenance activities. So we sort of identified that there's two skill sets. There's the maintenance and operations, and then there's sort of the guest communication, revenue management, listing management. Like those are sort of two different skill sets. And so we hired Jen, and then we hired two folks to be our communication managers. Basically, they just were the ones that talked to the guests. That worked for a while. We just got too big for us to be able to manage them and manage, everything else going on. And so Jen's still with us, but we ended up transitioning all the properties over to an operator. His name's Federico. He's amazing. He handles all the guest communications, all the listing management. And so, like, we just went live with a listing this week, and he's in the background taking care of it, running the analytics, changing the photos, changing the description, like testing everything, making sure that it's all working, handles all the messages, like all that stuff. And so I should have handed everything off a lot sooner.
Mm.
Definitely. Like there was so much angst and disruption in our lives from trying to manage everything internally. And part of that was on us because I don't think we hired right um, with our communications managers, or at least I wasn't being a good enough leader to train and manage and do all that. And so now we've got a really good model with Jen and Federico, and my wife and I are now, after this project is done, basically we should only have to spend a couple hours a week managing all these properties. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. So that feels really good.
What percentage does management charge?
Federico, I think he charges in the range of like 20 to 25%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's solid. So, do you bake that into your numbers ahead of time then, or were your numbers so profitable from what you'd previously done that it just worked out?
Yeah. So with Fede, since we are doing the management side, we don't pay the full 25%. So he's doing a portion of the work. And so that's reflected in sort of what we pay him. But the properties are so successful that it's just another line item on the expense sheet. And at some point, you have to say, what's my time worth?
Right.
Right. And so the disruption and the interruptions and the sort of the energy that goes into all that is worth more than we pay him. So, but Federico, don't hear me.
No,
Yeah.
I'm totally with you, man. I think tasks that you are not specially skilled in should be offloaded as quickly as possible. Like, it's so critical to reflect on what you're good at and lean into that and understand the value that you provide, and then outsource everything else. Literally everything else. And there are models of like, at what point do you outsource what? And people need to be thoughtful of that, of course. But hanging on to things can definitely yield diminishing returns and stunt growth, where people get in this startup grind mentality of I need to hustle, I need to do everything, and nobody can do it my job better than I can, or like delegating or outsourcing, they see the quality of work go down and it's frustrating, so they try to pick it back up without realizing the diminishing returns of not being able to be everywhere at once, which is part of why this hotel deal, I mean, I will never do real estate the same again, because what we did with the hotel was it was a big enough pie with enough profit that we were able to chop it up and divvy out the work to people who are highly specialized in what was getting divvied. And so our work, like our acquisition team, and you came in on that deal too, so you understand, like we did a ton of work through escrow, and then once we closed, it was almost pretty anticlimactic because the handoff to our property management that we were bringing in was so smooth and effortless because they were so high caliber, and the pie was big enough that we were able to justify such a high caliber property management team. And it's crazy. Everybody says like, "Oh, once you close, that's when the real work starts." our jobs got significantly easier once we closed. And of course, we still have more work to do. We have renovations coming up and everything else. But it is so smooth if you have a pie that is big enough that it can be split up. And if you can be okay with giving that task up, because it's also difficult for entrepreneurs to actually give up work that they're doing. It's almost like you get attached to the grind, like that task. And once you release it, once you let that baby chick free, it'll definitely make everything a lot easier.
That's been one of the biggest unlocks for me, especially in the past year, is learning what to release and what to give up. Like, you're absolutely right. I think entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners, we are so proud of what we can do and what we can accomplish. And typically, like myself, we hit a glass ceiling, right? And some of us don't even realize that we're at that ceiling because for me, I'm just so used to grind, grind, grind. I can get it done. I can get it done. I can get it done. Fill my day with tasks. I'm making progress because I'm doing tasks that need to get done, but I'm not actually stopping and asking myself, does this make me happy? Does this bring me joy? Am I the best person to do this? Are things better with me doing these? Am I always late on these tasks? Am I not doing a good enough job? Are reviews suffering? Or am I losing out on deals? Like, whatever the effects are, but you need to like literally stop, slow down to be able to speed up. And so that's what I've been doing over the past year, I would say. And it really started happening because my wife and I work so closely together. I decided that I need to just like not even be involved and see what happens. Like, yeah, there's some things that I wouldn't do or happen differently or whatever, but things ended up being better in some ways without me just kind of making it all messy, right? I realize I'm sort of like a 10-80-10 kind of guy where I really like doing the first,
Yeah.
10%, having a team understand the vision, do the next 80, and then come in and at the final 10% and sort of like get everything nice and tidied. And so when I really was looking at what's going on, and your point about the hotel is spot on. And with Airbnbs, let me just go through the life cycle of what that looks like. So you're buying the house that probably wasn't an Airbnb to begin with, right? And so you find it, well, you identify the market, you talk to the realtor, you go and look at a bunch of houses. Maybe you found it for them, right? That's the easy one. You go to the lender, they tear all your records apart, or maybe you're going to DSCR or some other type of loan, so that's a little bit easier, but they're still causing a bunch of time and headache to buy the house. You close on the house, you spend how many weeks or months renovating, furnishing, uh, not just time, but energy, making decisions. Maybe you got a regular job. And so you're like finding all that time. And then you got to get the listing up. And then you got to find the housekeepers and find the maintenance and all this. And then hire the management team, which maybe they do some of that, maybe they don't. And it's about the same amount of time, maybe a little bit less, but it's about the same amount of time and relative level of energy as it is to go and find and buy a hotel. But the difference is, as soon as you close on the hotel, depending on what your plan is, it's an existing business, it's operating. Maybe it's not doing the best, but that's part of the plan is to improve it. Day one, you're making money. It's coming in. And then the work, like you said, is scalable. And there's big players in hotels and commercial real estate, meaning that they're experts, they're pros, they know how to do this stuff. And if you find them, they will legitimately be able to help you, right? On the Airbnb side, it took a long time to find Fede. They're like, especially in the Arizona market, like there were property managers popping up everywhere. I'm a property manager. I'm a property 20%, 25%, and they don't do nothing. They don't do nothing. So when I met Brian and his mom, who are the property managers for Solvang,
Yeah.
I was like
Yeah.
blown away at the level of involvement that they want to have and the amount of expertise
Yeah.
that they have and how much they do, right? They do so much more than the traditional property manager does on like the
Yeah.
Airbnb side. And so just really thinking about the amount of time, energy, and effort that went into buying these single family homes versus what you can do with hotel and commercial real estate. And that's even before forced appreciation. So that was the other thing that was really sticking in the back of my mind with all these homes was, okay, you can put so like your property, your house, your Airbnb, it could be netting $1 million a year. But if it's a $500,000 house in a $500,000 neighborhood, it's worth
Right.
$500,000. With commercial real estate, with hotels, that's not the case. If you go in and you do value add and you increase the ADR and the RevPAR, and after 1 to 2 years of stabilization, you have now doubled, tripled the value of this asset through increasing the bottom line on the property, right? You cannot do that with residential real estate in no way. And so you spend all this time and effort and you're not even getting the full benefit as if you went and bought a commercial asset. Now, there's a glass ceiling that you have to break through, right? There's the how am I ever going to afford this property, right? And when I started looking at hotels, I was looking at like $1 million hotels, like, oh, how am I going to buy this? And they were like junkie, like they're the cheapest ones in the market because I thought, oh, this is you got to buy it traditionally. Like you got to go get a loan and you got to use your own money. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. That's when I found Rich, or when I saw Rich's content, and he had the mastermind, and I was like, oh man, like maybe I should join this mastermind. But I was in the middle of this project, and I was like, ah, nah, like I'll do it. I can do it on my own, right? And that was back in like November. I was like, I got to finish this project, get a hold of me in like May or something. And then he closed on or started closing on Bodega, or like announced Bodega in January. And I was like, oh crap, I got to join this group. Like they're legitimately buying hotels. And I hadn't moved off the start line, right? And so that's been another big change for me in this last year. And my advice to anybody in any industry that wants to break through the glass ceiling is to go get into a mentorship and go find the one that is doing the most, doing the best, that resonates with you, and you got to spend the money. Like spend the money, get in the mastermind, accelerate your learning, get in the bigger rooms, get around bigger people that are doing the things that you want to be doing. It's not going to happen, or it's going to happen so slowly. This is the way that business is done. This is the way that people accelerate their lives. This is the way that people accelerate their businesses, is through learning and growing through these groups of highly motivated, focused people. And then, it's on you to take action. And so that's how the Solvang deal happened.
Yeah, and also surround yourself with people who shift your idea of what normal looks like. Like I'll never forget mentioning to some of my friends, oh yeah, we're buying a 24 unit hotel. There's a duplex attached. So we're buying like 24 units or 26 units effectively. And I had one friend group that was like, oh my gosh, dude, that's insane. You're buying a freaking hotel? Like what? That sounds huge. And then I had another friend, I gave him a call and I told him, oh yeah, we're buying a 24 unit boutique hotel. And he said, oh wow, that really is boutique. Why so small?
Yeah.
And just that shift of changing what normal is like, it changes everything for you. Because when you walk into a deal and you see something, you think, oh, this is a small boutique hotel. Yeah, like it comes with a duplex, $6 million, Central California wine country. Like, yeah, this is boutique. We're going to create a cool experience. It shifts everything from how you compose yourself in conversations, how you conduct negotiations, how you talk to lenders with this mindset of, oh, yeah, this is an asset that we are going to raise capital for and everything else, but this isn't a big deal, right? And like, it really shifts what you think of as the glass ceiling. And now I try not to think of glass ceilings or what's crazy at all. Right now, what I'm trying to do is focus on the process and just put the pedal to the floor and go as fast as I can, as long as I can, and just letting like the ceiling be however far I get in life, as opposed to looking at a 400 unit Marriott and saying, whoa, that's big. I don't know. But it's like, dude, the only difference between a single family that you put on Airbnb to a 24 unit boutique hotel to a 400 key Marriott, the only difference is who you have the conversations with. It's literally all the same conversations. You're just having them with different people. Like whether you're having a conversation with your brother to raise 20 grand to convert this house into an SDR, or whether you're talking to some investors who are in tech or whatever else, and you're taking $50,000 minimums and you have that conversation 10 times or 20 times, or whether you're talking to private equity about this, $50 million Marriott, and you're having those conversations with 10 different private equity groups and you're going to raise whatever, the 50 mil. Like it's literally all the same conversations. The only difference is who you're having them with, and that difference is what you will hold yourself with when you go into those meetings. Like talking to your brother, you're going to be really comfortable raising that 20 grand. But if you walk into private equity with that same level of comfort, knowing like this isn't a big deal. Like, yeah, I found a great deal on this Marriott, but this isn't a big deal that I'm buying a 400 key Marriott. And composing yourself with that, and then letting them vibe off of, oh, wow, this kid knows what he's doing because he's walking in here comfortably, confidently, and he has his shit together, and the presentation was good, and he has the right connections and the right people in place. It's literally all the same thing.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think a lot of it has to do with people's own limiting beliefs about what they can achieve or what is big or not big. And you're only ever gonna achieve what you believe you can achieve, right? Or what you believe is the limit, right? And so people are people. This is something that I've kind of had with me for a long time when I was even in corporate and looking at like directors and executives and like realizing they were me. They were an engineer at one time. They were this like, and not being uncomfortable with going and talking to them and asking them questions. Like the same is true of buying these assets. And that's why proximity is power, and getting into rooms and around people that have that mindset that will push you and not push you in a direction that you don't want to go or like whatever, but they're going to tell you what needs to be done, how it should happen, think bigger, right? Add an extra zero onto the end of that, right? And at the same time, you also need to be really proud of what you've done up to this point. And I'm extremely proud of what I've done up to this point, but I'm also looking at it like, oh, I did it really hard. Like I did it really hard to work a job that's consulting. So I'm selling myself and I'm trying to maintain a quality product, and then to self-fund everything and manage all the construction, manage all of that. Man, I went through it. And then so I'm really proud of what I've done, but I'm like taking all my lessons and I am thinking big. I'm not thinking small. And I'm just like you. I'm like pedal to the metal on these hotels. And it's funny that you say boutique hotel because I don't even like the term boutique hotel because it's almost small language. Like I
Hmm.
want there to be a better term for it. And it's just hotels in general. It's just hotels, whether it's this small opportunity or, this 24 unit opportunity or it's a 400 unit opportunity, right? And like changing our language, something I've been trying to do more, and this is how I journal too, is like saying I am or I have, I do, like I buy hotels. I help people transform their money by buying hotels and produce cash flow, right? Now we can get into the details of the buy box and like what that looks like and where I'm at now. But for me, I buy hotels and I'm going to continue buying hotels in this phase of my life. And I'm going to continue transforming people's money through buying hotels and other assets, right? Until the next phase or whatever my next big thing is that I've got written down that I want to achieve, right? And, but it's so true. Everyone talks about this, but like you are the sum of the five people, that you surround yourself with. And if you've got a bunch of negative, pessimistic naysayers that you spend all your time with, or then you're going to be one of those negative, pessimistic naysayers, right? But if you are in a group of, there's this kind of analogy. I don't know if it's an analogy, but if you're hanging around like triathletes and you go out to lunch with them and they're all getting the salad, what are you getting? Are you getting the fried whatever, or are you going to get a salad too, right? Like it's a real thing to be around people that are more experienced, like more successful, whatever you want to say about that, and be around them, be with them, learn from them, and like don't be the smartest person in the room, right? That was something that I was realizing I was running up against. Not saying that I'm like super smart or whatever, but I had learned everything
Right.
that I needed to learn. And I realized that I love and maybe am addicted to growth and learning and like development and creating. And I had gotten to the point where I wasn't doing that anymore. I wasn't learning, I wasn't growing. I was just grinding and it was draining and I needed to change. And so like hotels is definitely like one of those ways out. That's one sort of pillar or aspect of my life now. Uh re-engaging in fitness and outdoor activities, creating content and wanting to connect with people like you and others through podcasting and just relationships and events. Like that's another pillar of my life that I'm really focused on. And being able to take all the lessons of the past, 5 years. Again, so proud of everything that I've done. but this is a new phase of my life of focusing on myself, focusing on growth, focusing on learning, and being around people that are doing really big, big things.
100%. And to circle back around to something that you noted on previously, buying the hotel was easier than the fourplex that we started off with. Like buying it and stabilizing it was easier, less effort overall, not just less effort per door, but less effort overall. And then when you factor in the per door, like return on my energy and time and money, like it's crazy, dude. It's crazy. Like I'll go to meetups and chat with people, and I'll put my name and then I'll draw a line under it and then write hotels underneath that.
Yeah.
And people often bring up like, oh, what do you do with hotels? Or you buy hotels, where do you do it? And they'll often like I'll talk to people who maybe they own a small portfolio or even a mid-sized portfolio of short-term rentals, and they think that buying a hotel is like this big thing. They're like, oh, whoa, I'd love to do that one day. And I always ask, what's stopping you? And I've discovered that 99% of the time, what's stopping people is actually just this mental block that hotels are bigger than what they can handle. And I'm like, what you are doing now is harder than buying a hotel. Like you've already put more work in than it would take to buy a hotel, and you already know enough to buy a hotel. Literally, the only thing that you're missing is a mentor who's done it before to make sure that, like it's always smart to put up the guardrails, especially if you're raising capital from other people. You want to
Yeah.
mitigate that risk as much as possible. So definitely bring somebody on who can support you in that way with the guidance, negotiations, everything else. But overall, if it's like an effort thing or a capital thing or like a mental thing, then like you can handle it. Like you can do it 100%. The only difference, like I said before, I'll just reiterate again, the only difference is who you're talking to. You're having all the exact same conversations, except maybe you're talking to more people because you're delegating more out because the pie is bigger. So you can delegate more out. And so you're actually doing less. Right now, like our fourplex, we renovated it ourselves, we furnished it ourselves, we designed it ourselves, we're managing it ourselves, and like now we've built a small team that's managing it for us, so it's pretty like it's extremely hands off. But even like with this hotel, the amount of work, I'll just break it down for people so that they understand on a lower level, is for the fourplex, we were managing it ourselves. For the hotel, we interviewed probably 8 to 10 property management companies, and then we picked one. So, like, managing a property versus interviewing 10 people and then down selecting to one, it's like it's significantly easier to pick somebody. Or like raising capital is definitely more effort. But even that, you're sprinting for 30 days to raise the capital, and then you're eventually done and you acquire the thing and you do renovations and everything else. But then even to renovations, like when the pie is big enough, you hire a general contractor, you hire a designer, and rather than doing the work, you're interviewing 3 to 10 people, depending on what the task is, because we like want to pick the best people, right? So if it's a lower risk item, maybe we'll only interview like 3 people. If it's a higher risk item, we'll interview like 5 to 10. But yeah, literally just get a really big pie and split it up and divvy it out, and you're done. And the return is so much bigger.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I think even on the multifamily side, I think the pie is not as big as it used to be. And so it really does come back to limiting beliefs and people making the decision to go in that direction without just getting shiny object syndrome, right? And like, oh, I own a hotel, I own a multifamily, I own this, I own this, I own this, I own this, right? Going deep on something, but then like pulling back and being like, okay, what else is out there? What else can I do that's going to benefit me? And like, who do I know that I can partner with on something to learn? That's I think it's just so easy to get comfortable in what we're doing, right? And to say, oh, I need to go learn something else. I think it's really hard for people. I think it's really hard to pull people out of what they're doing. And even like in the Airbnb side, you got to get so focused now. Like the competition is so fierce out there
Yeah.
now with designs and renovations and experiences. Like you got to be on it to be able to do it. And a lot of the old operators are falling off because they can't make ends meet and they're selling their properties off. And so even when that stuff's happening, or if multifamily is not making as much, it's just what they know. And so they might not have the courage or know how to jump over to hotels or whatever other asset class. And I think we as humans, we're so adaptable and we can learn so easily. Like life is a constant practice. Like I believe that like every day is practice, and that's in habits, that's in fitness, that's in health, but that's in for whatever's to come. It was like your story about the man and his son and saying, "Oh, maybe." It's the same thing with practice. You don't know what's up ahead of you. You don't know if you're going to do a hotel. You don't know if you're going to buy an Airbnb. You don't know, but you might. But if you practice everything that you do and you practice it to the best of your abilities every single day, whatever that looks like, when those opportunities come, you're going to be ready. You may not be 100% ready, but you're going to be able to take it on. So, for example, with Solvang, with the hotel, I wasn't a part of it. You guys did all the work, like to source it, to call, to do all that work. And then I joined the mastermind and we went to Cabo, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, and I don't drink, but like it was a blast. Like, and that was the first time I had met anybody. A lot of you guys already knew each other just because of San Diego. But I went in there, I was like, I signed up for this. Like, I want to meet these people. I want to be my authentic self with everybody. And I just want to show up and like have a good time. No expectations of anything else. And what that turned into, because I had been practicing being the best version of myself, just being true to me and like doing these habits and learning and growing for the past, year. I went into that thing and had so much fun and we connected with everybody. And because you guys had the deal going on and you were raising money, you'd reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to come in and help put this together?" And so I had a bunch of questions. I vetted the deal because of my experience, like solid deal, solid experience. It was like manifestation come true. Hey, I want to buy a hotel. Hey, I bought a hotel, right? Like the universe was like repaying me for uh
Your broken van.
yeah, it's like it's all still happening, right?
Yeah,
And then the craziest thing is like not the craziest thing, but like Neil. Neil's the man. And you've talked
he's
about him on
the
the
man.
yeah, you've talked about it on the podcast before. Neil is the GOAT. Neil owns a bunch of hotels. He's the nicest guy ever. His family's incredible. He lives in Tucson, which I don't know anyone else from Tucson. Like, I know people in Tucson, but like not like that. Like, and the fact that he's in the mastermind and then the property manager also from Tucson. It's like this weird like thing that happened. It was really cool to be a part of it all and still be a part of it. Yeah, that was like truly like I couldn't believe sort of the manifestation. And then kind of circling back to the point that I was trying to make about limiting beliefs and growth, there's a saying that goes something like, the thing that you desire the most lies on the other side of the thing that you fear the most. So the
Ooh.
thing that you fear the most is what is preventing you from acquiring everything that you desire. And my experience and my learning up to that point was telling me you're going to have to raise capital and you're going to have to go ask people for money, and that is your challenge, right? That is the thing, at least in this phase of my life, that is preventing you from like going and achieving the things that you want to achieve. If you really want to buy a hotel, if you really want to have the life that you say you want to have, the unlock is going and raising capital and having other people invest in the projects that you believe in. And so after looking at Solvang, looking at the numbers, looking at the plan and being like, yeah, like this is a solid deal. It was conservatively underwritten. There's easy upside. I don't like using the word easy, but it was like
Some low-hanging
some
fruit.
low hanging fruit for sure on that. And there's still like some amazing plans and things that are going to come out of it. Like that's one of my superpowers, I think, is recognizing good deals, low hanging fruit, but also what the end result is going to look like relative to the amount of effort that it's going to take.
Mm.
And solving was like a slam dunk in my mind. I didn't want to sell it that hard because first one, all that, but I then went out and did the thing that I was most scared of, I think, and called everyone that maybe hadn't heard from me in a long time. And said I got this hotel deal. I know I'm calling out of the blue, and but I believe in this, and wanted to see if you were interested, and had really good conversations with people, and ended up raising money for the deal. And I'm on the team, helping out with certain aspects uh, of the renovations and the construction and all
Yeah,
that.
man, I mean, the timing of everything was just so good. Was so good. It was definitely a stars aligning moment because yeah, like meeting you in Cabo, lining up with when we needed support in some areas with the hotel, and then also your experience with design and renovations that you're able to help out with has just been wildly beneficial, wildly beneficial. And that's a testament to keeping your eyes peeled and pursuing the opportunities that are in front of you. I have some very close friends who their strategy is just brute force. Like they will run through brick walls and they are built like juggernauts, and maybe that works for them, but there's a much lower effort way of keeping your eyes peeled, like your van breaking down and you're just staying aware and saying, oh, this is a good area. Oh, I think there's actually an opportunity here. I'm going to seize that. I akin it much closer to a frog jumping on lily pads that come by as opposed to a juggernaut bursting through walls.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was a lily pad moment of having you arrive and your expertise, and then also a great source in that mastermind for people with different skill sets. We have designers, people who specialize in renovations, people who are brokers, and it's just like this group of people that there's such a diverse set of skills that are coming together for boutique hotels that it's wildly advantageous. And it's been a blast working with you on this for sure.
Yeah, it is sort of like a stars aligning, a frog on a lily pad moment. And it seriously has been what I've been talking about and manifesting for a long time now. And if you're not taking advantage of opportunities that present themselves, then you're missing out, right? And I think for a while I was closed off and saying no, and like just wasn't in the space to be open to receiving a lot of this stuff. And I think that was at a detriment to me and myself. And so the past couple of years really open to people and opportunities. Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, and the mastermind, man. If you're in a group, if you're in a mastermind and the chat isn't blowing up, like you're in the wrong mastermind.
Yep.
Right? Ours, like since I've been in, which was like February or March or something, took down Bodega, took down Solvang, not me, but in the group, took down Bodega, took down Solvang, and I think there's two others under contract right now.
Hmm.
And then actually, I think Michael and Nathan have one more, you know?
Oh, nice.
So like there's three under contract, so it's five in the group, and there's gonna be more. Like this thing is nuts. Like I don't think there's anyone else, no other group out there is like buying hotels like this group is. So it's been incredible. Yeah. So if your chat or your Discord or whatever group you're in is not blowing up on a daily basis, like you're not in the right mastermind.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, Cassie, we are running out of time. So Cassie is actually staying at my place for a few days,
Crashing
and
on
we
the
have a pickleball appointment with some other people here in like a very short period. So we have to wrap up. We always wrap up with this question, which is your success in life is directly correlated to the quality of questions that you ask yourself or you ask the world around you. In your opinion, to be successful in this space and to do the things that you're trying to do, what is the most important question to ask yourself?
what brings you the most joy
Hmm,
in this? And that's really a reflection of looking at your energy and the things that you do around your energy. So it can be any task, it can be any, whatever industry you're in, whatever thing you're doing, do you actually enjoy doing it? And I guess the other question, or maybe a more pointed question, is am I operating in my zone of genius? Right. Yes, maybe I'm good at this. Yes, maybe I've been told the story my whole life that I'm smart and I need to be an engineer and all that. But am I completely satisfied with this? Or do I need to find the thing where I'm operating in my zone of genius and completely full of joy and happiness and excited to wake up every day to go and attack the thing?
that's it. That's money, man. That's such a good guiding principle. Because that's a good guiding principle for overall happiness and joy in life in whatever you do, not just how are you delivering on the thing you're doing, but like how are you harmoniously delivering on your own life and you're using that thing to do that.
I think entrepreneurship and whatever it is, real estate investing, entrepreneurship is really about becoming the best version of yourself. It's less about the product or the business that you're operating, and it's a journey of you becoming the best version of yourself to finding the most joy that you can with the people around you. And I think everything else falls from that.
Solid. I love it. Cassidy, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Gideon, let's go get this pickleball, huh?
Let's go get it.